And we have an opportunity to see God establish a new outpost of his kingdom. And through our work, hundreds, even thousands have already heard the gospel. Hopefully thousands more can hear the gospel. So before I share more about this, I want to just give a word of thanks to the many people who have contributed so much. First, I just want to thank everybody for faithfully attending. That's been a massive help and encouragement, seeing people showing up week after week, month after month. I'd like to thank our hosts. We first started out with Isaac, me, and a few other guys meeting at a McDonald's. Then we met at a food court. I was blown away by the hospitality that the many hosts here in this room and that have hosted us in the past have shown. First, Alistair comes and visits our group when we were meeting in the food court, and he says, "This is amazing. I love what you guys are doing. I want to host this in my house and make a meal for you guys every single time." And that really gave us a huge boost. I think that one act of hospitality from Alistair turned us from just a group meeting for a Bible study to an actual community. And over time, I feel like we've grown more and more and more into like a community, like a family. And I think that can be attributed to the hospitality of our hosts. And others have followed Alistair and volunteered their places as well. And now we've met at many different homes. So thank you to Alistair, to Kim, our host tonight, to the Fabricies, the Paracottis, George and Kiamaya, the Crawleys. They moved to North Carolina and are sorely missed, along with Alistair. Also, Carla Trevino in the loop. So can we give it up for our hosts for a minute? When it comes to the work of gospel witness, I think evangelism is one part of it, but when you combine evangelism and hospitality, it's like fire and dynamite. It's like fire and gasoline. These things need to be combined together. So I am so grateful for your hospitality, and if it weren't for you, we'd still be at Mickey D's. So I also want to thank, they have to go soon, but Dane and Olivia, you guys have, we've been through many hardships and obstacles to even get where we are today. The fact that we're even here is it's the grace of God. There have been many hardships, and many thought that this would not be possible in getting this church started. But through thick and thin, Dane, you've labored with me. Dane, Olivia, you've labored with us weekend after weekend, year after year, literally, spreading the gospel, sacrificing so much time and energy to bring the gospel to the city of Chicago. So without Dane and Olivia, I would say that we would not be here. I don't think we would be here today. So I want to thank you guys. And without you, Dane, I would have given up a long time ago. So thank you, brother. Can we give it up for Dane and Olivia? I know you guys got to go soon, so head out whenever you need. Also, thanks to the leadership team, Colin. He's our social media coordinator. He helps with our YouTube channel, which is Reformation Chicago. We upload content to help equip the church in sharing the gospel. So Colin can take a video of a conversation you're having with one person sharing the gospel, and then you get that online. You can get that one conversation to hundreds of people. So Colin's immensely gifted and has served also for many years. Sarah Grace runs our social media and also sent our newsletter out for years, keeping communication with our supporters, with our oversight, with our donors and other people who have been prayer supporters. And also, I want to thank, as those who have brought, I want to say this. I also want to thank our overseeing session. We've had accountability in different ways. Now we have a new overseeing session. A session is a group of elders, basically. We're basically borrowing elders and pastors from other churches around here to give us the oversight we need until we can produce our own elders. And so these men have sacrificed a lot of their time and will sacrifice a lot of their time in the coming years And so Kevin is here today. He's the only one on our session that's here today. We also know Pete Onink, Dr. Watkins, he's been here many times, and Pastor Bruce Hollister. He planted a church in Joliet, Illinois, so he's an experienced church planter. So we are well served by these guys, and they will help us as we seek to raise up our own leadership, our own elders. And this is a great way to do things, because oftentimes when churches are started, it's just the pastor. That's the only elder, and that's not an appropriate way to do church, because that's just a mini pope. So as Presbyterians, we believe in a plurality of elders, so it's never just one person making all the decisions. So that's a Presbyterian commitment. I think it's the wise and safe understanding of church planting, so I'm very thankful we have men that have stepped up to volunteer to care for the sheep. They also take care of all the financial side of things, so such as making it possible for us to receive tax-deductible donations. So if that's something you'd like to do, if you're thinking about starting to tithe to the work, you can, if you go to reformationchicago.com, all the information is there. But we're now in a place, by the grace of God, we can receive tax-deductible donations. It's easy to set up monthly giving. So, and I'm very thankful we have these elders to kind of just take care of that side of it. Because, I don't want to be involved in that. I also, thanks to many who have brought in food and drinks time and time again. Again, another element of hospitality. Whoever comes to our group is able to leave well-fed, unless they show up right at the very end, and sometimes there's nothing left. But people are well-fed, and that helps bring people in. And finally, I would like to thank my wonderful wife, Hannah, back there. Without her, we wouldn't be here today. Behind everything I've done, there is always a extremely faithful wife who is wrestling with our crazy kids. So, so in preparation for all our Bible studies, she's working just as hard as I do, and sometimes harder, in organizing, preparing food, and just doing 100 things that no one knows about, and making everything run smoothly. And so thanks so much. Also, I'm recording this because some people that want to be here are not able to be here today. I found out we can't sign for them, so I'm gonna hound people and chase people down with the petition after this. But so people can watch this. But I also want to thank our donors and others who might watch this, those who have contributed financially over the years. Thank you so much for your generous support in making this happen. For all the people throughout the denomination praying for us and donating. We don't take it for granted. And I believe it's Luke chapter 7, we see who funded Jesus and the apostles. I never knew about this, but sorry to take out my phone. Forgot to bring a physical Bible up here, but in Luke chapter 7, we hear a really interesting detail about those who funded Jesus. No, sorry, it's Luke chapter 8. So in Luke chapter 8 it says, "And certain women which had been healed of evil spirits and infirmities, Mary Magdalene, out of whom he cast 7 demons, and Joanna, the wife of Chuza, Herod's steward, and Susanna and many others, which provided for him out of their substance." Well, Susanna and all these people, honestly, I never noticed them. And there have been many people throughout church history that are sort of like unsung, secret heroes of the faith, who are secretly donating and advancing the work of the kingdom through their generosity. So I'd like to I would like to thank all of our donors. I view you all as just unsung heroes of the faith. While the names of some of these people may not make it into history books, God notices it. And we certainly don't take it for granted here. And we should also note that just like our elders that we're borrowing are helping us grow into our own leadership and to become self-governing as a church plant, all the money that we receive and will receive from the denomination and from donors, we shouldn't get too comfortable, because the point of this is to help us become self-sustaining. so that we can give back even more, so that maybe, Lord willing, we'd be able to fund new church plants that are like us, who need help. That's where we want to be. So we're not going to get too comfortable. We're going to sacrificially give. So thank you to our donors. Well, let me share a little bit more before we sign this petition. And this won't be the full thing, because I do have to chase down some people, but I want to share a brief passage. And this is something that means a lot to me personally, from Psalm 127. But and I have it in the King James, not just for dramatic effect, but also I think that verse 5 is a better translation. But also this is something that, from a personal note, I'm going to be preaching mostly from the ESV once we start, but since we haven't started yet, I might as well get a few King James sermons. I'm just kidding. But this has meant a lot to me, because over the years, sometimes I'll wake up with stress or anxiety, and I have this waterproof King James Bible sitting next to my bed. And oftentimes when I can't sleep at night, what passage do I want to go to? It's where he says he gives his beloved sleep. And so just reading over this, I've memorized this over months of just dealing sometimes with spiritual warfare in the middle of the night, and it's meant a lot to me, and it relates to what we're doing. Verse 1 says, "Except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it. Except the Lord keep the city, the watchman waketh but in vain. It is vain for you to rise up early, to sit up late, to eat the bread of sorrows, for so he giveth his beloved sleep." And the person who wrote this psalm is named Solomon. He wrote a book called Ecclesiastes, and in that book he says, "Vanity, vanity, all is vanities." So we see that threefold vanity in Ecclesiastes. But now we see him giving us another threefold vanity in Psalm 127. Vain, vain, vain. And what's vain? It's the work we try to do without God. And note, this is also a psalm of ascents. Does anyone know when the Jewish people sang the Psalms of Ascents? Dan?
Going up to Jerusalem.
Right, they were going up to Jerusalem. They were ascending up to Jerusalem to worship at the temple. And these Psalms of Ascents have lots of focus on on the nation, on Jerusalem, on the temple. They loved the walls of Jerusalem. They loved the temple. They loved the city. They were concerned for the nation. And you see that echoed all throughout these Psalms. So what might this Jewish pilgrim be feeling and thinking as he makes his way to Jerusalem? He may be wondering, what can I do for this city? Or think about, what can I do to protect this place? We're surrounded by potential foreign invaders. What can I do? I'm just a goat herder. I just herd goats, and now I'm on my way to. Just see you guys, drive safe. Now I'm on my way to Jerusalem, and I care so much about this place. But what can I even do? What can I do? Or think about Solomon, one who was the most gifted, the most wise, the most powerful, the wealthiest. And yet even Solomon is realizing, as he's building the house, as he's building the temple, unless God builds this, it's vanity. You see the walls as you approach Jerusalem. Or maybe Solomon's thinking about the walls and sees the watchmen up there with their spears in hands, ready to sound the alarm if there's an invader attacking the city. But really, at the end of the day, unless God watches the city, the watchman watches, but in vain. We're cooked unless God protects the city. It's vain for you to rise up early, to sit up late, to eat the bread of sorrows. As Protestants, we believe in the value of hard work, and as Christians, we think, hard work is good. This is speaking about an anxious, anxiety-driven workaholism, where you're rising up early, sitting up late, you're making yourself miserable as a workaholic. That's what this is talking about. And what he's saying is, no, he gives his beloved sleep. At some point, you just need to trust God and go to sleep. We can't control all these things. We don't need to be worried. We should work hard, but from a place of rest and trust in God. And we might be thinking similar thoughts as a pilgrim. Hey guys, welcome in. Yeah, so there's Chick-fil-A there. Have a seat. And then we're going through, if someone could give them a handout, we're going through Psalm 127. And we might be thinking similar thoughts as these pilgrims. Who am I? I'm a sheep herder. I'm on my way up to Jerusalem, and I care so much about this place. What can I do? What can I do? How is this going to succeed? We might be thinking about along the lines of what Solomon was thinking. How are we going to build a church? How are we going to build this church? Is this really going to succeed? Think about all the obstacles that are going to lie in our way. We may experience people betraying us. We may experience persecution. We may have a nice place to rent, and then we get kicked out by the landlords because they don't like what we believe. We may encounter so many different trials or tragedies. How is this going to succeed? Things are so expensive in Chicago. And we could go on and on thinking, how can this succeed? As people have thought about us for years, for 8 years now. And many thought we would never, I even had points where I didn't think we would be at the place we're at today, even in this room. How are we going to do this? How are we going to build this church? Well, the good news is we are not able to build this church. The good news is not us who build the church. I brought this book here because I like this cover page, and I didn't Sharpie it out, but basically what this says in white is how to run the church. And then Guy Waters crosses it out and says, no, how Jesus runs the church. So we don't run the church. And you could do the same thing with building the church. We're not the ones who build it. And unless God builds it, it's vanity. We can't. We need to have an outlook of complete surrender and trust in God, that He's the only one that can cause the work of our hands to be established. Unless He builds the house, they labor in vain that build it. And unless He watches the city, the watchman waketh but in vain. It's vanity without God. Ecclesiastes tells us, vanity, vanity, vanity. Life without God under the sun, vanity. But we find out in 1 Corinthians 15, verse 58, one of my favorite verses in the Bible. Therefore, my beloved brothers, be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that in the Lord your labor is not in vain. Is not in vain. In the Lord, in contrast to the world of Ecclesiastes, of emptiness, of life without God under the sun, meaninglessness, vanity, futility, hollowness, emptiness. Life under the sun might be like that. But in the Lord, our labor is not in vain. You see, with God, it's not in vain. Without God, it's vanity. If God's not with us, it doesn't matter who's for us. But if God is for us, who can stand against us? And as we see also in Matthew chapter 16, where Peter makes his great confession, thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. Jesus says this, you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. Jesus says, I will build my church. He's the one that's building his church. Now, he's doing it in a general sense all around the world. He might see fit to do it through us and cause this church to be established and enable us to plant many other churches and see this entire city impacted. He might not. But he's the one that does the building. That gives us confidence. And that helps us know that whether we think we're like some Solomon so gifted that we can do it. No, it helps us see we can't do it. But it also helps us see if we feel like I'm just a lowly goat herder, I can't contribute anything to the kingdom. No, we can. Under God, He can establish the work of our hands. And if He's with us, we're empowered. Now, lest you think that I'm just cherry picking these first two verses and ignoring the last three verses, let me comment briefly on these. To be on cards on the table, I had no idea what these verses had to do with the first two verses. Because what does it say in verse 3? Lo, children are a heritage of the Lord, and the fruit of the womb is His reward. As arrows are in the hand of a mighty man, so are children of the youth. Happy is the man that hath his quiver full of them. They shall not be ashamed, but they shall speak with the enemies in the gate. Now, this shouldn't make us start thinking about, wait, is this telling me exactly how many children I need to have? I need to go research. What was the average ancient Near East quiver size? That's not what it's telling us to do. This isn't telling us we need to be absolute, fertility maximalists and have literally as many children as humanly possible. That's not the point of this. But the point of this is it answers the goat herder's question. It answers the lowly shepherd's question. I'm coming to Jerusalem. What can I do? I'm anxious for the well-being of the kingdom. I'm anxious to see Israel and Jerusalem established and strong. But what can I do? And I'm so anxious, working as hard as I can. Well, we can be so anxious and eat the bread of sorrows about things in the short term. We can be so worried thinking about the short term. And this helps us to not, the last 3 verses help us to think generationally into the future, with having a long-range vision. Because even though I may be just a lowly sheep herder, I can help raise up the next generation just through doing ordinary faithful things as Christians, as raising our children well, raising them in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. And maybe we don't have children, but everyone here is able to make spiritual children through sharing the gospel and through making disciples. Everyone is called to that in the church. We can all make disciples and make spiritual children. And when John Calvin's child died, his one child, and he was mocked and made fun of it, heard this from Dr. Watkins. People made fun of him when his child died. He had so many enemies. And he said, it's better to have 100 children in the spirit. Sorry, it's better to have one child in the spirit than 100 children according to the flesh. And what he was talking about is all the people that he had won to Christ through spreading the gospel. And so we can all take part in this, investing through evangelism, through raising up our own children faithfully in the next generation. What mark do we want to leave here in 100 years? What do we want to be doing in 5 years, in 10 years, in 50 years? What will we have left behind in 100 years? And there are some churches that are not perfect, that you may have your issues with them, but don't you respect that Moody Bible Church has preached the gospel for over 100 years in this place? That Charles Spurgeon's church has preached the gospel faithfully for over 100 years. Independent Presbyterian Church has been preaching the gospel in the South since the 1700s. There's a Lithuanian denomination, I believe, that has a letter that John Calvin wrote them that has been preaching the gospel for 500 years. So we should think in the long term. Think about the next generation and be a church that welcomes and loves children, that when we hear a baby cry, when we might be tempted to be annoyed, we would actually thank God and say, praise God. That's a sign of God's blessing. They're on deck. That's the next generation on deck. So we should thank God and be a church that embraces and loves children, but isn't exclusively a family church or exclusively a young adults church, but it's a place where everyone is welcomed, where children are loved, where anybody can walk in and be greeted and loved and hear the true gospel without compromise. Jesus Christ is the one who builds his church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. We see gates mentioned twice. We see walls, we see gates here in this passage. When Jesus says the gates of hell will not prevail, it's not that we're surrounded by people that are trying to get in here. Imagine there's like a bunch of zombies or something trying to break into this room. That's not the picture. The picture is we're attacking the gates of hell, and their gates will not be able to hold. Their gates will burst through. So, I want to thank you all for coming. I don't know whether we'll get 20 tonight, but there's a number of people who haven't signed yet that couldn't make it today, so we'll see. It's not necessary. There may be some leeway if we don't get quite 20 because we have unusual situation, but I'll share a little bit more about the petition. Why don't we rise and sing All Glory Be to Christ?